Morning. Time for a video, yeah? Right, I've listened to and watched a couple of other fellow VC channel owners do this thread, if that's the best way to describe it, of 10 best British bands. Eventually I decided I was going to jump on this one, and I'm almost ready. Well, half of it's ready. So I'm probably going to do it in 2 bits, 5 and 5, or 6 and 4, I'm not quite sure. To narrow things down, seeing I'm such an old codger, I'm going to choose 5 of the best British bands that affected me deeply at the beginning of the 70s when I was 16 years of age. And so that's going to be early 70s, taking us through to mid to late 70s. And then I'm going to do another few which basically celebrate 78 onwards. And then there's a couple that don't really fit into either category that straddle both time zones. So that's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to try not to go on too long, although this intro has already been far too long. I've had a shave so that you can see that I'm making an effort here, and I'm about ready to start. And so let's get to it. Now, before I get started, these are not in any particular ranking order, so I haven't done best at number 1 and worst at number 10. They're all a bit of a mixed bag, but I will make comment as I go through. I'm going to start off with Genesis, principally the lineup which included Peter Gabriel. This journey for me all started in 1969 when I saw them live, and they were basically, their set was mainly Trespass, and then I saw them again in 70, and they were including tracks from Nursery Crime. Trespass, marvellous album. Of course, The Knife was the closer on their set, and it's the best track on the album, but it basically laid the groundwork for prog Genesis. And then 70, they just took it up to another level with Nursery Crime, which is in fact my favourite. The Musical Box, Fountain of Salma Seas, and The Return of the Giant Hogwig were absolutely tremendous, both on record and live. Musical Box being my favourite Genesis song of all time. Then we moved on to Foxtrot, which was in 1971. 2 awesome tracks here. The infamous whole side of Supper's Ready, which does take a bit of getting into, repeated listens necessary, and the dynamic intro, Watcher of the Skies. Then moving on, another, as you can gather, all of these albums really are 4 to 5 stars, absolutely immaculate, and that's why they're in this best band video. Selling English by the Pound, remarkable follow-up to Foxtrot, and included the excellent The Battle of Ebbing Forest. And then we moved on to the last of Gabriel's albums, the double album Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which is, well, I listened to it the other day and I still think it's absolutely amazing. In the Cage, 9-minute rendition, Counting Out Time, which was a minor hit, and The Carpet Crawlers, which is absolutely 5-star. And of course, then we moved on to the end of Gabriel and the beginning of Collins. And they started off with A Trick of the Tail in 76 with Collins on vocals. Dance on a Volcano, Squonk and Ripples are the 3 that caught my ear then and still do. Wind and Ruthering was a bit of a low point after that, although it's still excellent. And of course, the 11th Earl of Mar got that album off to a great start. And then we had One for the Vine, another 9-minute. 77 saw the release of Seconds Out, which was a live album, and it dipped into the era of Gabriel and of the early stages of the Collins lineup. And then finally 78, and then there were three. They'd lost Hackett. Hackett wasn't really appearing much on Wind and Wuthering, and that saw out 78. Wyndham, and then there were three. Still highlights here. Undertow, I love, and of course the very, very poppy Follow You, Follow Me, which is a single. So second up on this Best British Bands, King Crimson. Now this band were never really achieved the huge fame of Genesis and others to come, but I think they were a remarkable band, evolving in '69, of course, with the debut in the Court of the Crimson Cream, 21st Century Schizoid Man, which absolutely hit you between the ears, and you thought, wow, goodness me, how heavy can this band get? Well, they got heavier, but more of that later. And then the delicate, beautiful Epitaph and Moonshine. They followed it up with In the Wake of Poseidon in 1970, which was a little bit much of a copy of the debut, with a few little extra touches. Pictures of a City opens up, and it was Schizoid Man, but toned down a bit. Then the beautiful Cadence and Cascade, beautiful lyric by Greg Lake on here. And then this very strange single, Cat Food, which was almost sort of a bit hip-hoppy. And then the classically inspired The Devil's Triangle, with the mellotron really dominating. Lizard followed, and the best track on there was Circus. It was the second in 1970. I do like it, but I don't know it that well. And the same goes for Islands, which was a live record, but it did have Schizoid Man on it. And then Earthbound, things fell away from me there, but they were relit on 73's Lark's Tongue in Aspect. Thanks mainly to my friend Dave Weaver, if you're listening. And he was heavily into this era of Crimson. And the John Wetton, Bill Bruford phase was about to dominate. Easy Money and the Lark's Tongue Part 2, the peak of Lark's Tongue in Aspect. And then Red, which I consider to be possibly my favourite album by them. And this is where the three-piece really tore you to shreds. The title track and One More Red Nightmare come to light. And between them was one of those real beautiful ballads that threw in Fallen Angel, and it ended with the epic Starless. And Starless and Bible Black followed 74. I'm not quite sure which one came first, Red or Starless, but the Starless in Bible Black, Bleak. The Great Deceiver opened up with a cataclysmic guitar, and The Night Watch, another one of these delectable ballads. And Lament was also a popular one. And then 75, another live offering called USA. Lark's Tongue Part 2 and Easy Money featured, as did, of course, Schizoid Man. So that's about summed up King Crimson in the 70s, a giant of progressive jazz, fusion type rock. Awesome. So my third from this decade, and it started in 69. The band was simply called Yes. 69, of course, their debut, and some very nice little tracks on this. They weren't quite prog rock there, but they were moving in that direction with Tony Kaye on keyboards. Every Little Thing, Sweetness and Survival. We hadn't yet come across Steve Howe, but of course Anderson was at the front, and so we knew what we were getting ourselves into. Then 1970, Time and a Word, and I love the title track and Sweet Dreams. And then the real big one came in 1971, the Yes album, and almost beyond any criticism, this album, and it was used as a core for their live set, which was something to witness and believe. Yours Is No Disgrace opened up, and of course it was generally the closer on their set. The excellent Steve Howe composition called The Clap, between Disgrace and the third track on side one, Starship Trooper, which was another colossal piece of work. And then side two, not bad either. Starts off with this very catchy harmony, I've Seen All You Good People, and Perpetual Change ended it. Fragile was next, Roundabout, possibly the highlight of this, and Heart of the Sunrise, which was a closer. Once again, they were on that live set, and that's why I probably projected them into this best bands. And then 72, the end of, they released the unforgettable Close to the Edge. The first side was the title track entirety. Rick Wakeman, of course, and now in the band. Him and Squire were really rattling through this one. Absolutely brilliant. And two songs on side two, and You and I and Siberian Cartru. A tremendous piece of work. 73, I bought Yes Songs, which was a triple album live set with all the stuff basically from the Yes album, Fragile and Close to the Edge. Tales from Topographic Oceans, I was less enamoured with this and rarely played it. And by then I was sort of running out of gas with Yes. Relayer I had, but I didn't play that much. And Going for the One, hit single, but again had fallen off really my radar for listening. And finally 78 Tomato. But if you go from the beginning, 69, through to the Close to the Edge, that's why they're in this Best British Bands. And that's the third selection. If life's becoming a bit predictable for you, you have to realise that from 1969 to the end of the 70s, or certainly the mid-70s, I was 15 to 21, probably the most impressionable age, really, for music, if you were into music. And so my fourth choice is Pink Floyd. I came to Pink Floyd in 1969. I was too young to appreciate the first two, although I did come back to them, of course. But I bought Ummagumma, and the live set blew my mind. Astronomy Domine, and then who can forget the Scream by Waters on Careful with That Axe, Eugene. And then side two, Set the Controls to the Heart of the Sun and A Saucer Full of Secrets. So after listening to those two sides, it was with wonderment that I moved on to the studio session. This was a very difficult listen. But there is a highlight or two. Gilmour's contributions, because they had a contribution from each of the four members. His contributions, The Narrow Way, was by far the most rhythmic and cosmic and progressive. The contribution from Rick Wright was a lot of synthesizer, and it was, well, to put it lightly, bombarded your skull. Waters chipped in with a nice sort of acoustic number, and then some drivel about furry animals. And Nick Mason's I never got into. Moving on was Atom Heart Mother. Of course, this is when they got the orchestra out in full, and the first side was the title track, absolutely tremendous. I saw this live in Hyde Park. And then on side two, Fat Old Son was an If were the highlights, although it did tend to sort of slip away. Medal was up next, two standouts, one of these days, which opened the album, and then the second side, once again, a full one song, Echoes. I bought Obscured by Clouds, loved it as a soundtrack for the movie La Valère, and Mudmen was a standout on this. And then we could move on, but the computers messed up my notes. So after Obscured by Clouds, of course, they released Dark Side in 1973, and I won't go through any of the tracks on that apart from Great Gig in the Sky, because they were all absolutely 5-star. Wish You Were Here appeared in 75. Less enamoured with this, but it did have the 5-star Shine On Crazy Diamond, a tribute to Syd Barrett. And Welcome to the Machine, which was an interesting psychic experience. And then 77, Waters delivered his political montage, Animals, with 3 tracks relating the 3 animals in George Orwell's Animal Farm. We're talking of pigs, dogs and sheep. If you really want to get into that album, you really got to understand the politics of Orwell. 79 then, the last hooray, The Wall, double album, absolutely 5-star. Could go through the tracks, but I probably won't. Comfortably Numb, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, and I really love Run Like Hell, and Goodbye Cruel World, which Waters did a very good job on the live concert. So there we are. That's my 4th offering, Pink Floyd. So to the 5th album in this not top 10, but 10 bands from the Britain, got it right, from Britain. And on my 5th offering, I've got Jethro Tull. Now, I was really saddened to miss their live appearance at a very small club that I used to go to in Godalming in 69, 70. I actually saw Genesis at least 3 or 4 times there. But I missed Tull. But my friend managed to gravitate me to This Was, which I wasn't that keen on. More keen on the singles, really, at the time. Sweet Dreams and The Promise. But I did get into Stand Up in 69, and the Nothing Is Easy standout track, one of the most beautiful guitar breaks in the middle by Martin Barr. And of course, Bourrée arrived to our ears, and this was Anderson's beginning to merge together classical music, care of Bach, with progressive rock. Wonderful stuff. Nothing Is Easy, another standout blues intro. Benefit, hugely disappointing, but that's because Stand Up was so good. And then Aqualung appeared on 71, and I absolutely fell in love with it. My God, Aqualung and the Mother Goose, which I find absolutely whimsically brilliant. And then, of course, the standout, which closed their set, Locomotive Breath. Absolutely stunning. Thick as a Brick, 72, 2 tracks. Takes a bit of getting into, but it's worth it. Minstrel in the Gallery. I loved the opener with strident marching sort of rhythms with Anderson at the front with those vocals. Skating Away is a lovely track, but it's not on that album. It's on War Child, which I missed. Oh, damn it. Baker Street Muse, Minstrel in the Gallery, 1975. Another track that took up almost one side. It's certainly very challenging but rewarding. And Cold Wind into Valhalla, complete the 75 Minstrel in the Gallery. Going back now to War Child, I love Skating Away and Bungle in the Jungle, which was an attempt at a hit. Yes, a hit by Jethro Tull. Amazing. Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die. Yeah, good, but can't remember any of the tracks on this particular video. I need to listen to it again. Then we had the 2 sort of folk rocky Jester type albums, both absolutely first class. I took some getting into for me because it was predominantly a mix of a delicate guitar with Ian's flute extravaganzas. But Songs from the Wood, 77, the title track, and Jack in the Green and Hunting Girl are probably the ones that I remember vividly. And Heavy Horses, the title track stands out, as does One Brown Mouse. And then 79 saw Stormwatch, and this is an album that I'm not that familiar with. But really, if you could get 5 of those, how many are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, about 8 albums. If 5 of those you love, then they've surely got to have a place in this. The interesting thing about Tull is that they did release an album every year. And that was something that we all drooled and looked forward to. So that's that. That's the first 5 out of the way.